Hello and welcome to another Tech Campus Coffee Live webinar. This is an opportunity for you to learn about career paths at Tech directly from professionals in your field.
We'll be speaking to technical representatives from a variety of fields at Tech, and they'll share why they enjoy what they do.
Participants also have a chance to directly ask speakers and recruiters questions and get a good understanding of why Tech is a great place to work, as well as where your strengths, talents, and learning opportunities lie.
For anyone who's not met me, my name is Kara. I'm a recruiter here with Tech. I've been with Tech Resources based out of the Elk Valley locations in southeastern BC for the past 10 years. I've worked with various teams through my time with recruitment. So I'm supporting the co-op and campus teams and their hiring right now. And I've also worked with environment and our water quality and water sustainable development teams as well. So maybe we have obviously Chris and Arthur, as you can see from the slide here, but maybe I'll hand over to Chris first. Maybe you could we'll do some more in-depth introductions, but maybe just to kick us off, you could give us an introduction of sort of your role here with Tech.
Thanks, Kara. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Great. Yeah, so my name is Chris Stroik. I have been with Tech for about almost 10 years, and my role right now is I'm managing environmental performance for all of our operations, including Chile and US and Canada. So I guess we can get into some of the details around that, but it's really around helping the sites manage environmental compliance and then working with them from a proactive perspective, setting standards, providing best practice training, that kind of stuff. Maybe I'll leave it at that to keep it short.
Thanks so much, Chris. Arthur, over to you for a little bit of an introduction on yourself here at Tech.
Hi, thanks. Yeah, so my name is Arthur Chaletsky. I'm a relatively new hire. I've been with Tech for about 6 months now, and I work in the design and permitting group at Fording River, which is the steelmaking coal mine site in the Elk Valley. Yeah, design and permitting. I work to make sure that the designs of different structures that we're building on the mine site are all as they should be. And on the permitting side, basically working with regulators and different environmental specialists to make sure that the projects we got going are going to be in respect of the environment and just successful projects, pretty much.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Arthur. So I'm going to get into a little bit more on sort of your sort of career path to Tech and sort of what drew you here. So maybe Chris, I can kind of start off with you. Like, tell us a little bit about sort of your path and what led you into mining and like ending up with Tech here. What drew you along that path? A little bit on that.
That's a great question. All right, so I've finished. Do you want me to kind of profile education, or does it matter?
Yeah, maybe a little bit, just because we obviously
Sure.
we have students who are looking, and our paths are not always like straight or clear cut, and
Absolutely not.
Piques our interest, and that just drives our passion.
Yeah. For sure. Okay, so I finished an undergrad in biological sciences at the U of A, then did a master's degree at the Civil and Environmental Engineering department. Worked in a consulting firm for a few years, and then I took a job with the regulators out in Nelson, BC for 10 years, or the better part of 10 years. And that was really a very productive, way to get introduced to the BC like the regulatory system, obviously, because I was the regulator. And it really introduced me to the industrial world. I had some experience as a consultant, but really working with the industries, including like the metal smelter and Trail, that's a Tech-owned facility, the coal mines, pulp mills, etc., sewage treatment plants and whatnot. And what really drew me to Tech, I recall being at another meeting with a client years ago, a different client other than Tech, and walking out and really helping, trying to be proactive as a regulator, and knowing that I was not I was on the side of the fence about just kind of giving people rules and telling them what they needed to do, not part of the solution. And that was really a kind of a light bulb moment for me to really get to the pragmatic aspect. And then a job at Tech came up that actually had me starting in Calgary in 2013, and then I moved from Calgary to a couple of big projects, and then moved to the Valley and worked on a couple of other big environmental assessment projects, doing some water treatment plant stuff in the meantime. Ended up being at the operations for a few years, and then now in Vancouver.
That's awesome. Thanks so much, Chris. Great overview, and really interesting to see you kind of had that consultancy and then the sort of regulatory government kind of side of things before joining tech. So that gives you a really good perspective on all the elements there. That's great. Arthur, maybe over to you with a similar question. Like, what sort of drew you along your chosen career path into tech?
Sure. So I guess if I start at the education, then I initially was actually in the physics degree at McGill University. I did that for 3 years, graduated in 2008, and that was when there was a bit of an issue with global financing. So I continued on into mining engineering. I was very drawn to the project. Mining engineering was interesting because you get some hands-on experience with co-op work terms. I thought it was a great opportunity, and so I did that. I graduated from McGill University after working at a couple of mine sites for my internships. And I loved working at all these sites just because every time that I was on these mine sites, the people I was working with were great. They were always very friendly, and I loved learning all the different things, the different projects that you could do on a mine site, a variety of work you do actually. And when I graduated, I'd been working for 10 years in the mining industry, and it was just up until recently that I was working at a big gold mine in the province of Quebec until I got a call from a recruiter at Tech Resources, and they presented me with an amazing opportunity to come work at the Elk River, Elk Valley in the southeastern BC, and I couldn't refuse that. Great place to work and a great company, and just exciting prospect of just trying out something new. And I know that the race department was also all about technological innovation, and that was super attractive to me. And so that's why I accepted a job, and it's been 6 months now that I'm with Tech, and it's great.
That's great. Thanks so much, Arthur. Well, we're happy to have you. And like you say, living in the Elk Valley is a special treat all of its own. So yeah, I'm located there too. So that's great. I guess getting more kind of into your particular role and your field, what about the future, like next couple of years, like projects, things that you're looking at in your area get you really excited, whether that's particular innovations or goals that tech has within the environmental like stewardship field. Maybe talk a little bit about that. Arthur, I'll lean on you again first. We'll kind of change it up a bit.
Sure, no problem. So in the design and permitting side, it's a lot of the projects are actually pretty long term. We're talking about permitting, which could take a couple of years to get going. So I guess that's what I'm looking forward to. Some of these projects are, they've had a lot of preparation work that went into them. Talking about permitting spoils at the mine or different pit designs, and there's a lot of work that goes into it. Environmental modeling, water quality, hydrogeology, fish habitat, ecosystems, a bunch of different disciplines and environments that need to go into these permits, and I guess it's a long haul to get all this work done, and I'm looking forward to getting the permits and being able to move forward with the work, which is really since I haven't been here for that long, it'll be one of the first permits that I guess I'll have contributed to getting moving forward with, right?
Yeah, that's really interesting to see that part of it, because a lot of what everyone sees about the environmental work we do at Tech from the outside is sort of that action, all the action and the boots on the grounds, and maybe the reclamation or being out there. Whereas there's this huge, it's like the iceberg. There's all this permitting that comes beforehand to get to that actual start spot of work. So that's really handy for students that going into that field to really understand there's always a lot of work before you get to the action a lot of the time. So that's great. Thanks for bringing that to light. Chris, and maybe for yourself, what's coming up for you that's really exciting in your field, or what's the future look like?
Yeah, sure. So many things, but
Yeah.
I think one of the big things, just to maybe kind of catapult off of what Arthur was talking about is this, like, we are really in a multidiscipline space when we are talking about any type of new development now. And it's really bringing professionals in and people with expertise across so many disciplines, including like the traditional environment disciplines and engineering disciplines like water and air and waste and mining and engineering, but also in the social components as well around community relationships and indigenous governmental organization relationships. So I think those are really the big development spaces that tech is really trying to take a leadership role in. And I think those are really critical pieces that will enhance our success, is to have those disciplines sharp and refined as we go into permitting. So that's one of them. I think the other piece around, so that's like future development stuff. I think we've got some really great water treatment technologies that I'm super excited about, that'll really help our operations in the future and currently. And then I think from a reclamation and rehabilitation point of view, like tech's been a real leader globally around setting NPI, which is like a net positive impact around biodiversity elements. And we just announced a program that sort of adds to that, like a nature positive piece, where we're really committing to setting, like offsetting or rehabilitating at least 3 hectares for every 1 hectare affected by our mining operations by 2030. So it's a huge goal, and we're actually the first in the world to kind of announce that thing. So that's, I think, from a point of view of I guess that was the other piece that attracted me to come to TAC, was there is a big sustainability lens here. Not just from a reporting point of view, we do win sustainability report awards, but just from the culture itself, there's a push towards sustainability because it's an important topic.
Yeah, and that net positive impact goal is like really, really exciting. Like, how cool is that? You leave it better than you found it, right?
Exactly.
Way above and beyond. And I find that tech is always kind of going above and beyond in its goals and its approach to sustainability in the environment, the communities that we operate in. So that's awesome that you brought that up. I guess as we obviously have our students on the call, if you've had a co-op student in the past, Chris, I think Arthur, maybe you're haven't had a tech one, but maybe you've had one in past employment. Chris, what were some of the projects that maybe former co-ops of yours had exposure to, or some of the work that they were doing during their co-op term?
Gosh, there's lots. Yeah, because when I worked at, like, we don't have a ton here, but when I worked at the mine sites, we'd have at least 1 or 2 co-ops per year in the environment group and the environment team. So everything from just getting on the ground and doing, like, helping the technicians out with sampling, data downloads, a lot of the kind of basic sort of health, just an assistant around managing our monitoring data and graphing our monitoring data, trying to put some data analysis together. We collect a ton of data across all of our sites. We are implementing sort of programs to help us with that, but there's still the human needs to look at this data. And so I've had co-op students, pull air quality monitoring data and look for trends from a perspective of our operational impacts and what we can do better with that, to all the way to writing procedures and drafts of management plan reports, just on how to do or how to best practice, to kind of roll up all of our best practices at the operation. So it's, like I said, we've, like, at the 2 mines that I worked at directly for a few years, we had, I don't know, probably 10 co-op students over the term, and half of them are probably working for tech today. So
yeah.
At least half, for sure.
Yeah. And that's definitely something good to highlight. Like our goal is to see those co-ops, enjoy future employment with tech, and come and join one of our operations. So it's great to have that co-op experience with us. So yeah, thank you. I guess Arthur, maybe over to you. Like maybe you've had students in the past that have worked in your teams. What do you think that students can do to really prepare and have a successful co-op term with with somebody, and obviously with tech?
Sure. Well, I think just like having an interest in the mining process and also the mining site itself, really getting to know the work that we've done here. There's a lot of information that's available on the website that you go see and get to know what we're doing. And I think to have a good, successful co-op, just being motivated and getting involved and getting to know the people you're working with. I love having a co-op who's independent and motivated, and you just give them a project and they just take it and they run with it, and it's amazing to see what can be done really, and whether it's 4 months, 8 months, or 12-month co-op internship. It's quite amazing sometimes.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks so much, Arthur. So I just looking at the chat, and just because we briefly just touched on it, so I'm just going to ask this question right now. So thanks, Johan. I think it is. So just to be able to describe sort of the day-to-day culture and the mindset of the people you are working with regarding environmental stewardship. And I think that's really important, because working as an environmental professional in mining, it can be really challenging. So how would you maybe, just describe that, the culture of the teams in regards to environmental stewardship?
Yeah, or just for me or for Chris?
Yeah, either. Sorry, I should have picked on one of you. Maybe Chris, if you want to jump in, you can, and then we'll see.
Sure. Yeah, I think I think it's more of it's a real collaborative problem-solving environment, to kind of really sum it up. And I think that's especially if the new, especially with the teams at the operations, it's quite a reactive environment, and it can be quite fun and challenging from a point of view of just different problems. And there's a lot of people with a lot of knowledge and being able to problem solve these things and kind of find the best path forward to, maintain integrity or legal compliance and whatever, and solve the problem or whatever we need to. So I think it's generally pretty positive. Again, emergency situations, barring emergency situations, I think it's a kind of it lends itself to creativity and really bringing out the best in people.
That's great. Anything to add to that, Arthur, in terms of the day-to-day culture on the teams here?
No, sure, I would agree. It's a good collaborative environment. I mean, everyone's working towards the same goal, and especially in the environmental side, you have some really motivated people who are really take the heart to work that they do. They want to see good results, and it's just great working with these highly motivated people.
Yeah. I work, even from my own perspective, I work closely with the water and environment teams, and they're a great group that just enjoy the challenges and work, as a collaborative team to solve the challenges that come their way. And there's a lot of firsts in what people are dealing with in terms of the environment and water quality and sustainability in those areas, which is really exciting. And having that sort of common goal and positive attitude is, it's really great teams to be a part of. So I guess looking forward into your teams and what hiring might be coming up, that in the next year or so, where do you think that new graduates coming out of environmental science, environmental engineering, those sort of fields, forestry backgrounds, where would they maybe fit into your current teams? What would be roles that you think that students or new grads would keep an eye out for, do you think?
Well, maybe just jump in on that one. Yeah. So I think depending on where someone's looking, I think that the door, if you check even the postings out at through the Elk Valley or up at Red Dog, or even through the Spokane office, there's a lot of desire to hire environmental people of different, a whole bunch of different backgrounds. We have a fairly lean team here in Vancouver. It's not, I would say fairly lean is an understatement. So, we've got a couple of people here, but ultimately, we're really supporting the operations, and that's where sort of most of the, that's where the stuff happens. Although we have had climate-related folks and reclamation and closure-related co-ops come through the program here. And I think there's going to be a few hires that we kind of pull in those spaces, including tailings in Vancouver for sure in the next little bit. I can't commit to anything, of course, but
Of course, yeah.
that's what next year's budget looks like.
And our postings are always updated, kind of like day to day. And in the environmental field in general, we see a lot of opportunities at our operations, and it's really great for new grads to get field experience. And a lot of those positions are, fieldwork heavy positions, environmental technicians, environmental coordinators, supporting and implementing the projects in the field that Arthur and Chris are developing. So Arthur, anything from your side of things on the sort of hiring or anything to add there?
Oh, well, on my side of things, most of it is actually mining engineering. So I can't comment much on the environmental graduate side of things. But yeah, I think there's always an interest in hiring talented people, and I think one of the best ways is doing an internship, and that'll just show your talent to the group, and it's a good way to get your foot in the door.
Awesome. Thanks, Arthur. Yeah, we have a lot of like EIT positions that come out. Again, it's not posted at any particular time of year. They are updated as we get approvals at the operations. But yeah, EIT at an operational level is a great way to start your mining engineering career if that's the field that you're in, and getting that hands-on, sort of close to the operation experience. It's really valuable, and a lot of our co-op positions will have, very heavy field work in the sort of sampling and data collection, as Chris had mentioned, as well as, some of the office time where you're more involved in the development of the programs and that kind of thing. So, okay, great. So I see a couple of questions in the chat, and then I have a couple more questions for Chris and Arthur. Michelle has posed the question, how is diversity promoted to encourage inclusivity and conductive work environment? So I can definitely talk to that a little bit, but how has that looked on your teams, Chris?
Yeah, I think that, obviously, I think we're always trying to bring in diverse perspectives, no matter what angle of diversity we want to bring in. And I think that's just important to have those perspectives and those backgrounds, whether it's cultural or gender or academic backgrounds, into our conversation, because that's when we're going to get the best ideas and kind of best actions kind of flowing through that. So I think, I just dropped a link about our equity, diversity, inclusion at Tech. So I think that might be good for other folks to read if they wanted to think about that. But I hadn't, I think I fully support it. And I think, like I said, I really like the cross pollination of different mindsets that we can get brought to the table, because it's really important for us.
Thanks, Chris. That's great. And thanks for sharing that link. Arthur, how's that, looked in the team? I know you're new in the tech team, but your sort of approach to that.
Yeah, well, I mean, like you said, I'm relatively new here. But I guess something that struck me is just, everyone respects each other, and, I go see, it doesn't matter who you go talk to, everyone's kind to each other, and then comprehensive of different, backgrounds. Everyone wants to be inclusive. Basically, you can ask questions, and everyone's just ready to help, really. So in my experience, the short time here with Tech, it's just been great working with the variety of people here.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah. Thanks so much, Arthur. And yeah, through our hiring and our diversity and inclusion, hiring at Tech, I've seen a lot of good things there in that space. And then even one thing I've noticed, throughout the operations recently is, an increasing rollout of psychological safety, procedures. Not procedures isn't the right word, but programs. And, the whole heart of that is just, welcoming you to bring your whole self to the conversation, basically, and feel welcomed into that team and feel able to bring yourself into the conversation and have different perspectives looked at and valued. So yeah, it's been really positive here at Tech. So yeah, great question. Thanks for bringing that forth. Okay, jumping back into I guess looking at some of my questions. You're gonna
I'm gonna cut you off right there just for a second. So we have 2 HR questions here that I would like to address right now. And then right after that, we'll jump into trivia for like 10, 12 minutes, and then you can go back to your questions right after that. Does that sound good?
Yeah, sounds great. I got a couple more to ask, so that's awesome. If we have time.
Awesome. Yeah, we should have enough time. Awesome. Okay, so we have Michelle asking here, is there any summer intake on students too for co-op, or is it just January? So no, we have, and also Kara briefly mentioned this in the chat as well, but we prefer to address questions in the like speaking them out, like saying them out loud so that everyone else has access to the answer, because this will be recorded, and the chat is not part of the recording. But anyways, yes, we have 3 intakes, and so we have intakes in January, in May, and in September. And so those are the 3 times that you should kind of be looking for, which mostly align nicely with student like academic terms. And then the other question from Johan is, when do we apply for the May 2023 intake? And the answer for that is, you should start looking for a posting 4 months before you're looking to start your co-op. And so if you are planning on starting in May, you should start looking for the posting in January. If you want September, you should want to do May. If you want January, you should want to do September. So always 4 months in advance.
I guess, a couple more questions, and then we'll just kind of leave some time for any questions that people want to like put their hand up and ask, or throw in the chat, and we'll do that. Want to give you the students some space to ask those questions. But I guess two main questions. So is there something that stands out so far in your career? Start with you, Chris. That's really made you proud to be a tech employee?
Yeah, I mean, I think some of the stuff that we've done around the water treatment aspects of treating some of our legacy issues out in the Elk Valley around selenium, nitrate, and now sulfate. Like, these are world-class leading treatment plants that are really beyond anything you'll probably ever find anywhere else in the world, just because of the type of water that we're trying to treat. And so I think that was really, it's been a real game changer for us to really be able to come to the table with technology that we've developed. Not without its own set of challenges, but I think we're on a really good path right now for not only our like active water treatment, but our saturated rock fills. Like, we went from a company that was sort of 15 years ago not really knowing how to tackle the problem to having a pretty clear strategy with probably at least 2 technologies and one upcoming technology to really like change water quality for the better. So I think that's a major, something that I know that I worked on in different parts of my career at Tech. So yeah, that's definitely great. Part of it. Yeah,
really changed the rhetoric there around local water treatment in the Elk Valley and becoming a leader in that space. So that's really great.
Global leader.
Yeah, global leader, exactly. It's not just Canadian. That's one of a kind sort of thing. So that's great. And I guess a different kind of question for yourself, Arthur, is what's kept you motivated throughout your career, or what's a current kind of passion of yours? Either one of those.
Well, I would say that just getting performing as good as I can. I mean, I really like getting into the nitty gritty of a project and getting to understand it in depth, and making sure the result is very good. Recently, a project that we're working on is reclamation of a soil, and there's a bit of an artistry in that, and so getting the design to look good, to be good for the environment, for the wildlife and ecosystems, and also looks good from a visual point of view. And I guess just getting seeing the work done properly at the end, and it's just rewarding in itself.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Arthur. Maybe we'll take some time. Just I have a couple other questions that I can ask, but sort of to the students, if there's any questions that you have for Chris or Arthur, these are senior people in the environmental field here with Tech. If there's questions that you want to ask, now is a really great opportunity, to kind of get that information, the inside scoop on life in the environmental field at Tech. So you can pop one in the chat, as Natalia had said earlier, like we'll read that out, or put your hand up and ask a question of our very willing participants here today. So thank you both.
In the meantime, while you guys think of any questions, RMAT, maybe you can put the testimonial slide up. It's just some testimonials from former students that you can read out while you kind of think what you want to ask about. Yeah. We actually have now 2 questions already in the chat, so it's good time good thing that we're giving them time to think.
Students. Okay, so I'm going to start with just the bottom one, like what kind of training opportunities do you offer for students? So I guess, and then I'll turn over to Chris or Arthur to jump in, but specifically for students during your co-op term, the training that you would receive would be obviously on the job training, and you're learning from your your professional engineers if you're working under them, or your supervisors, or if you are required to do any sort of specific field work, confined space, any of those things that are required for your job, you would receive that training during your term here in that 8 months or a year or whatever term you've been offered. Sort of following that as an employee with Tech, then there's a whole sort of another training spectrum. There is a budget set aside each year for training that relates to the job role you're in, or things that you've identified about this sort of next step up that you want to take. So it would be kind of I think, Christina, that was your question. So hopefully that answers that.
I think maybe just to add on to that, Kara, like the safety component is a really big component of like bringing any new hire on, and I think that's like a really prime focus for us, is obviously to make sure that people are able to do the work, but also to make sure they're doing it safely. And our mine sites are they're active areas. There's a lot of stuff going on, so definitely, yeah.
That would be a key focus of our orientations for sure. And then as you work through, if there were any changes in the work environment that you were going to be in throughout your term, then that training would be adjusted accordingly. So yeah, that's great. Thanks, Chris, for bringing that up. And then another question. I have a master's in mining engineering, specializing in mining environment and sustainability. Very much interested in applying my academic knowledge of water management to the mining field. What skills do I need to get an EIT position with Tech? Yeah, so I guess, I don't know, Arthur, if you want to sort of chat to that, as it's somewhat within your field, and I can talk to that a little bit as well.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think you're already in a pretty good position with the specialization in mining environment and the master's in mining engineering. I mean, you got the knowledge there, and so I think the what we look for in the EIT position would be someone who's just motivated and gets along very well with the team. I think we want some people who want to be involved and have very independent to be able to take up projects and just move them forward. Really. Those are the kind of skills that I look for when interviewing different AITs, I would say.
Yeah.
And maybe just on water specific things, if you had any background in like gold sim modeling, or if there's a base background in gold sim modeling, water quality analysis, depending on what your topic area of water management in the field was, but that's definitely like, again, usually those but from an EIT perspective, there's a lot of, we try to rotate the EITs through sort of several different areas that Kara will probably speak to.
Yeah. Yeah, we do have like an EIT rotation that you would kind of move through, and that's being more developed to like our water operations, our water quality management team as it's grown, and it's growing very fast over the last couple of years, and it's a bigger team now. So we are rotating people through the different disciplines of, project engineering, the water quality modeling team, the research and development group within there, as well as the water planning team, which has got a very sort of heavy mining influence because due to the integration between, water quality and our mining design. So, but as Arthur says, I think with the background that you've laid out in the question, you're in a really good position. I mean, EITs, we understand that you're coming out typically as a new grad. Any work experience is great. If you've gone through some co-op programs during your time, if you've had a little bit of field experience, that's great too. But yeah, we're looking just mainly for, that sort of drive and motivation and positivity and, getting to know a new team, because we understand that EITs are, your new graduates, you're not super experienced in your career already. That's kind of where you're at. So I think, thanks for the good question.
Yeah, I think it ties in a bit into the training as well. Just like we're sure we like to show all the tools that we use in the mining environment, but if you have some experience with those different softwares, and that's also a great asset. And having worked previously with Cole as well is also a very good thing to bring on site.
Yeah. Thanks, Arthur. And I see one question here that I'll just ask before we maybe come to the end of our sort of scheduled time, I guess. But are opportunities just for engineering students? And it's a really great question. No, we have new graduate positions for people outside of the engineering discipline, especially within the environment field. We see people coming out of environmental science, fisheries background. We have a huge aquatic science team here. So you coming out of biology, chemistry, process engineering. We've got water treatment plants and other facilities. So I know chemical engineering is obviously part of that, but even just chemistry, biology, microbiology, forestry, environmental like technology programs. So yeah, definitely a really wide field of disciplines that we draw on to fill the roles in our environmental and teams. So yeah, not just
community engagement as well. It's a big component of what we're also looking to. We bring students in all the time through our communities or social performance groups. So that's a definite advantage.
May I ask as well, Adrienne, which is your, what are you studying? Or which area would you be looking for to get something?
You can just...
Because I was just going to add that the answer to that question is no in caps. It not only, we don't specifically for students, I know because that's my world, campus is everything that I focus on mostly. And so we hire almost every single field, just like the video that we showed at the beginning. It's we have everything from business to computer science to data to environment, political science, arts. We hire honestly every area for students. Every area can apply. There's opportunities for literally everyone. And that's also a similar situation for new grads. And so I'm interested in psychology, but also interested in environmental studies. So yes and yes. I've seen psychology students in things like HR or community engagement and different things. And environmental, of course, as well. Just another quick question just came in from Teresa. Does tech assist in student relocation and housing? I can take this quickly, Kira, and then you can add on to this if you feel like I'm missing something. So we offer relocation. Oh, too many questions are now going into the chat now that we're just on time. I have a couple more minutes to answer these questions, but if you guys, Arthur and Chris, if you guys have to jump to any other meeting right after this, you're free to go. But thank you so much for being here and for helping us out at this.
Yeah, I do have to run, so I'm going to jump.
All good. All
right,
good.
Thanks,
I do have
everybody.
a couple more.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Arthur, for all the great
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
questions. Really appreciated your time today.